Hello, Active Sage here on the Sage channel, and today we're back in Space Engineers with another Thursday update. Now, many of you are probably familiar with Uncle Steve's mod pack, or at least block pack, where he has a lot of sloping blocks like this one here. It's a nice long slope, as well as this one here, which is just a, well, it's similar to the bog standard ramp we have, but it's much longer and more, well, it's nicer and actually looks like one piece, as well as these other pieces over here, like this one here, and these over here, yes, like this, where we basically putting two of those together. Now, the thing is, the devs saw that, they saw how many people wanted it, and they actually went ahead and said, let's put it in the game. And they actually went ahead and did it properly. So Uncle Steve's mods, they were basically just standard custom blocks that you put in, they don't actually merge. So if you don't know, in this game, all blocks, if you were to fly into them, they actually, you can't see block inside block inside block. You don't see just like a brick wall right in your face, because they're all just deleting all the polygons inside of there. That way it's not rendering at all, which saves on performance theoretically. Well, Uncle Steve's just had all those blocks on there, so if you had a huge ship with tons and tons of sloping blocks, you'd be adding tons of polygons to the face of your ship, making it much more laggy. Well, these, if we were to fly under there, you can actually see, we can see up into these shapes, because these are the actual official developer ones. And they're actually not bothering to render the faces that would look up into them. Now, some of these, if we were to look down onto them, like these here, it renders a face there because it's rendering the face for this whole area here. Otherwise, you would just have to render a single triangle here, or tessellate the surface here in some way, which means drawing the lines to put the triangles, which are called polygons, in. So they have to have one little plane here. So you'll see that every now and again. You'll also notice another plane there. That's because they're not merging these two pieces together, because these are actually made in a much smaller way than Uncle Steve's. So Uncle Steve's, you would be placing, well, let's fly over here and we can show it pretty well. This big piece right here, a 2x1, all on its own. You'd just be placing that as it is. Well, the way the developers have gone ahead and done it is actually giving you a bit more freedom, and that's because they've broken it down into two separate pieces. So you can be placing this big block here all on its lonesome, or you can be placing just this little piece on its lonesome. But of course, placing them together, they form this pretty much seamless structure right here, which is pretty damn cool. And the reason they did this, I believe, is for, well, two reasons. One, to give you a lot more freedom, and two, that way these blocks can deform, because all these blocks here can deform like normal blocks when they're hit in the game, which Uncle Steve's didn't either, they just exploded. So these will actually deform if they're hit and impacted. So you can see also the ramp piece we have over here. You take the two pieces and you stick them together, you get this. Pretty cool stuff. I did find one issue I'm going to point out right now with this little ramp right here. If you go ahead and flip it up like this, pretty cool, you can imagine making small walls like that or other things. If you place it right away, you'll notice it doesn't actually render out that cube right there, the flat plane. It's not tessellating it or anything, it's just not rendering it out. So we get the pass-through here like you would expect, and hey, looking down, there's nothing there, but of course there's nothing here on the outside either, which is what I was saying over here earlier when I was saying it was rendering it out on the inside. It was so it could also render it out on the outside, that way the whole cube isn't just taken up incorrectly, as you can see. So that's an issue I found with that one block over here. As well as, I think, did this one do it as well if I was to go ahead and try to place this one down like this? No, it has its own issue where it cannot be placed like this, which is a bit frustrating because you could see yourself wanting to make a shape like this, or maybe having one of these here and then flipping it over and having another one like that. That way you could have a small triangular walkway through there. Unfortunately, you cannot actually place them just like this. I can place it right here because its backside is up against that. I can't place that, but if we were to go ahead and fidicle like that, and go ahead and put it in like that. Now you can see we have our passageway here, but of course this block right here is now actually counting as a separate station. If I was to copy it with a Control-C, you can see it shows up as completely separate. So it's a bit strange that I can't place those. A few other little things, let's just go ahead and really quickly test out to make sure these aren't causing any gaps like that one is. I don't think they are. I checked through them a little bit earlier. Just going through really quickly. You can see you can place a lot of these in other interesting ways if you want to build yourself some, well, very interesting shapes. Like that. So there we go. You got a little bit of a under cubby there. Why would you want that? I don't know, but you could probably find out a reason pretty easily. We also have these here, so we can carry on with the same shape. Right like that. There we go. So that's pretty cool. That's of course using the same blocks you'd be using for this one right here. All I've done is flip them around. Pretty cool stuff. And you get a hang of putting the two blocks down and flipping around the way you want to build up bigger structures after a while. At first it can be a bit confusing, but you get the hang of it. Also, of course, this big thing here, which I've been flying back and forth with, is taking all these pieces here and just placing them in alignment down here. Actually, this shouldn't be right there. What are you doing there? What are you doing there? There we go. So taking all these pieces here and placing them down, lining them up, I basically make that, which I can demonstrate again just by doing this, oops, here. I've been playing an awful lot of Medieval Engineers, so flipping stuff around sometimes confuses me now, which is unfortunate. And this is going to be the wrong one. Yes, it is. But we could do something like that, which looks interesting. I don't want to do that, though, because now we're getting off track. We want to do this here like that. There, I missed it again. Dearie me, oh my. Also, it seems to be resetting the position of the block when you switch back to it. A bit unfortunate that. So you can see I had rotated that block around to fit there. I switched back to it, and now it's dog standard reset. Useful on some blocks to have it reset, but sometimes not so much. But anyway, there you go. You can see that. You can also, of course, color them. So now we can see we have this sort of striped pattern to it. And of course you can calculate them separately. You probably did notice something there that was to do with, I think, placing this block like that. Yes, it does also create another gap there looking into it where it's not rendering out that face anymore, which is slightly unfortunate. Actually, there probably isn't a face there to render, it's just deleting the face. But yeah, that's slightly unfortunate because of course you get that gap. But you could see yourself wanting to do a shape like that. That way you could go ahead and, let's see, do we want to put that there? That kind of looks interesting. Unfortunately, it's also created another gap here. But you can get the idea that maybe you had something like that just to have a bump out to add more character into something. And then maybe you'd have these here followed by, let's go back to just this one here. And you'd have those shapes like that. So now you'd have this strange little bump out that could look pretty cool if the faces were actually being rendered. Pretty cool stuff though. Also over here I just have some randomness to show you how you could build up some things. Unfortunately we do have a few gaps showing up with some of these blocks. But you get the idea that using them, you could have some very unique structures, including little tiny bollards like this. By the way, these all do have construction states, so you can see a huge amount of construction states here, and right here for all of them. There is also two different types of them. There is heavy and light. So we got the light at the top here, and we got the heavy at the bottom, and there are actually two different types of each of those. So I'm going to press G and actually scroll down to them, and you see here this huge old block right here of all the different types there are, and it's pretty simple and straightforward. At first it just looks like, oh Jesus Christ, why? Don't worry, it's actually not too bad. You can see we have top row right here that I'm going over. That's all just standard light armor, and so is this, and all this down here is heavy armor. Now, the difference between this one here and this one here is one of them deforms, like the rounded blocks were originally. The bread blocks, as I like to call them. So all these will deform, and all these will deform, while the top rows here will not, and those are the ones I've been working with. So, to show you the deforming ones, we can go ahead over to this platform here, and you can see these are all made with deforming ones. So, this right here, where if we were using the non-deforming ones, would look something like this, right here. When placed with the deforming ones, turns into this terrifying little monstrosity. Let's actually go ahead and put them on the hotbar, that way I can place them and show you what they look like as I go. So there we go, got them on our hotbar. And let's go ahead and just place down the same piece that we see right here. So it's supposed to look like this. As soon as we place it, it's going ahead and spreading itself out to fill apparently the whole cube, or at least trying to. And then we also, of course, have this one here, which does much the same. If we were to place it even on its own, if I don't miss like that, it even freaks out like that. A bit strange. We do also have these here, so I can flip these up and place it like that, and you can see, once again, it's trying to warp out and fill in the gaps and make smoother corners, which of course, I personally am not too keen on, but I can definitely see the usage of these being, well, making lots of smoothed out stuff. Unfortunately, one place I did want to use them over here today was this spot right here where I wanted to fill this in. So I was like, okay, we'll go ahead and put, I don't know, let's just put the deforming version of this one here, and then we'll put another one right there, and then we'll put one in the middle, and hopefully we'll pull them all together. Unfortunately, when I did that, obviously it's not deforming correctly. It's still trying to act as if there is just a big square plane on the side of this block here that I'm aiming at. So it's a bit strange. It doesn't exactly warp like I would expect, unfortunately. But we can go ahead and do this. You can see it starts to actually do its job, but it still doesn't quite line up. Let's see if these can be placed here. Yeah, it doesn't quite work. Hopefully in the future we'll have blocks inside of blocks, just as we do in Medieval Engineers, and we'll actually just be able to go ahead and, using the non-deforming versions, place this here, this here, this here, and then place another one at that orientation straight in there holding alt or whatnot, and then doing much the same up here, of course, just with let's say, this block here, and then rotating it as such, and doing Alt and placing it in there. Hopefully we'll get to that point. Right now, we'll just have to deal with that, or that mushy strangeness that we had, that we were originally showing on this platform here, which is also the deformation platform, again, that I've flown back to. Also, let's just go ahead really quickly and plop down one of these sons of guns right... No, not you. This one here, I think. Yes, that's it. So plop that down there, and okay, I was afraid they were going to deform and just destroy their own shape. You can see they kept them. Also, these do actually seem to be a bit crisper in appearance than the standard ones. So in comparison, we can go ahead and be using the standard ones here, and let's flip it over so it's the same sort of thing there, and flip that over so it's the same sort of thing. So these, you can see, aren't as crisp because they're actually using their own texture for it, or at least they're using a texture in a specific way to have like a big triangular-esque panel right there on the sides, and also here on themselves as well, whereas these are just using the bog standard texture and tiling it over it and stretching it and moving it, so it's a bit odd. Also, another error that I should report before I move on is this error here that was pretty obvious with this ramp. It appears that unfortunately something to do with the ramp isn't actually merging them all together, so you got that bit of a seam that showed up right there, and also it's showing up again right there. I'm not talking about the color difference, I'm talking about like that big metal line that's moving left to right, and it gets up to where the new piece starts and it just sort of cuts off. A bit strange that. Let's go ahead and just finish this off to see if we can... Am I using the right block? I am. Again, it gets kind of confusing sometimes. There we go! And it's not letting me place it again because it's not able to place from that angle for some silly reason, even though it should be able to. And there we go, switch back to it, there we go. Those two actually, nope, there is a seam in there as well, so unfortunate that. Let's go ahead and carry on with what we were doing over here, which was the deformed blocks. So I've shown you that these look crisper, just because of the fact that the texture just rolls over them. I wouldn't actually suggest this to be a good thing, I'm just saying it looks crisper, whereas this actually looks like it's built to actually be like this. So I don't know, it's just strange and interesting to see that. And also I'm just going to go ahead and really quickly do a little bit of modular construction just to see proper comparison between the two different types. So there we go. Now we have the two different types of sort of bumped out metal bits. Pretty cool stuff you can build with these, obviously. Even just this, it looks like some sort of strange armor. You could imagine that along the edge of a ship, whereas in the past you would have just had something like that. Now you could have something like this with these little bump outs to make it slightly more interesting. Who knows? A lot of cool stuff. Also moving over here, since we will eventually have planets in Space Engineers, I was sort of thinking, well, you could use these in their deconstructed form as sort of a fence. So that's these blocks right here, and presuming they fix that little glitch there, you can go ahead and grind them down and use them as a bit of a fence, or even go ahead and flip them around. So you already got one wall like that right here, and flip them around and be putting them in like this, or even better, like this, and sort of have that arch sort of hanging over, or even this could be the outside of your fortress or whatnot. Pretty cool stuff. You could even be using them to make a hallway. Unfortunately, again, we have a little issue here where the top of them is being, well, it's not being rendered properly. But if we also get blocks inside blocks, we'll be able to fill in these corners correctly. Like, oops, like, there we go. So it's like that, and it would be down in that same block as this one here if I held Alt. That would be pretty cool. It would fill in the corners, and you have nice sharp edges there if you like. But you could also, if you were able to do blocks inside blocks, go ahead and have these set up, let's see, one like this, but of course you need to place it against something like that, and then one like that. Unfortunately, I cannot place it in there, but you get the drift. It would be like that in a super tight little triangular walkway that you could walk through, well, as long as the character could actually fit. A lot of stuff that I'm looking forward to blocks inside blocks. Also, I should say, if you are befuddled at all this whole, oh, I have to place this block and then find this one and make sure it's oriented the right way, and oh, that worked out well for me this time, but what if I wanted to flip it around this way, and now I have to flip this one around the right way, and you know, if you feel that might be a bit much, I have a sneaky suspicion that in the near future, we will be seeing a simplified version where when you go down here to see these blocks, just like in Medieval Engineers, there'll be a little plus sign next to some of them. There won't be so many here. And as soon as you go ahead and select one, it will be, let's say it'll actually look like this one here, the number 4 button down on my hotbar. It'll look like that, and it'll just place in a whole one of these right here. But if you use the scroll wheel on it, it'll suddenly go from placing a full one to just this. If you scroll the scroll wheel more, it'll go to this. I get the feeling that's the sort of thing that we'll be seeing in the future. At least I suspect. Anyway, guys, that's it for my update video on this latest update from Medieval Engineers. Oh, by the way, also LODs similar to the rounded blocks. See, watch that little gravity generator hub there. It pops out to full blocks once we get far enough away. So, well, some other things. I suspect that might be fixed or changed in the future, but right now, no such luck. And actually, it's probably pretty far down their line of things to fix. There's a few other things. Oh, and really quickly, just about forgot. In fact, I've had to reload the world. Look at my hotbar down here. It is set up, well, it's not actually set up here. In my original save of this world, I had gone ahead, made the world, I'd named it when I made it, and I set my hotbar up with, this is another bug report by the way, this thing, this, and this, actually no, it was 4 and then that, there we go. And I also had a few other hotbars set up with the shift keys to switch between them. When I then exited the world, I went ahead and did a save, such as that, and then did an escape and saved such as that, and then went and saved the world with a save as and made a whole new save. Well, unfortunately, it cleared all of my hotbars. So when I went back in there, it was completely dead set, or automatically set to a bog standard hotbar. Oops, bumped a little something on my desk. Now the thing is, if you do what I've done right now, which is go ahead and load up a new world and save, it'll keep your hotbar, even if you do a save as and save it onto something else. And this is a bug that's been there for a couple months now, and I'm just making a point of it, because it's starting to drive me insane. I set up all my hotbars. You see, the ones I just set up, they saved over this time. But for some reason, going between that first world, when you first exit it and reload it or whatnot, it seems like it clears your hotbars. And it is nuts. It's absolutely nuts. It's such a small thing, but after months, it's really getting on my nerves. Another thing, though, that I am still here for is because subsymmetry mode. They have a few issues with these blocks that I figured I should definitely point out before we move on, such as this here, where obviously it's not flipping these around correctly. Yeah, a few issues such as that. It's not flipping these at all. We can also go ahead and get rid of these and show a few more. These guys, are they doing correct flipping? No, unfortunately not. They are not. What about these guys? They appear to be, nope. No, most definitely not. In fact, that one there is actually, on the right, is actually sticking straight up, whereas the others actually appear to be, well, these up here are somehow looking like they're flipping the correct way, but they're not correct to the original one I was placing down. Anyway guys, that's about it for that. Oh dear god, how did this even get deformed? I didn't think I was working with the ones that deformed it. This is somehow looking to be... Oh no, I've gone ahead and put one of these down. Let's get rid of the symmetry. I've gone ahead and put one of... What kind was this anyway? I think it's a number 5 block? Yeah, it was a number 5 block like that? I don't know quite how I did that. What block was that I even put down there? It was the number 3 block. This one like that, yeah. So what I've done is that, and then I think I've put down another one, yep, like that, and unfortunately it's getting rid of the back face. So they got a few issues on those. It's unfortunate because you can do a lot of really interesting shapes with a lot of that stuff cut properly. But either way, it's still a pretty cool update. I'm really looking forward to when I get some of the kinks worked out of it, and a lot of other stuff, and of course, it lets you make a lot of thin little walls and stuff. And of course, if they do blocks inside blocks for a lot of these, the possibilities of having actually tight corridors in your ships will be fantastic. And if they start doing more smaller block placement, similar to how Medieval Engineers does, placing lots of furniture and stuff, we might be able to see the lights when we go ahead and place lights, not just being stuck to the very center of a block, but actually being able to place them maybe up near the edge or wherever we like. Anyway guys, that's it for this update. I've rambled on a bit too much. Oh, one last thing I just about forgot to point out was this here. As you can see, this is the bog standard block here. It's a, I believe it is the number 4, no, number 3 again, actually. And we flip it up, so that's this block here. Well, its build states appear to be a bit off. As you can see here, its build states, for some reason, are bumping out to the whole shape. I don't know if this is a completely different one, by the way, this last one, but its build states are actually a completely different shape. Well, nearly completely. It's as if this top face here is just a square. That's what it looks like. It's very odd. I just thought I'd point that out as well. Anyways, for the second or third or fourth or fifth or 5,000th time, thank you a bunch for watching. I hope this was informative and somewhat entertaining, and I shall see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Ta-ta. Consider subscribing, consider upvoting, consider downvoting if you didn't like it, and yell at me in the comments. Or don't. That's cool if you don't. I don't mind that. Bye.